Hello and welcome to this chat. Right, I'm going to start that again. But actually, you know what I'm going to say. It's been a while since we've done one of these. And funnily enough, the last time we did it, I think it was with Ben Aitken as well, around about this time last year. Ben is a national hunt enthusiast. He does enjoy the flat, especially the sprints, I think. But he's best known for his work in the national hunt sphere. And I'm very pleased to have him on the line to have a chat today. So, good afternoon, Ben.
Good afternoon, Matt. How are you?
I'm okay, mate. I'm okay now. Just for the viewers and listeners, we spent most of an hour trying to figure out how to work the technology, which for two people who do stuff on the internet is not fantastic. Anyway, enough of our woes. Ben, what have you been up to since last I saw you?
Since the last I saw you, I think last I saw you at Beverley, wasn't it? Beverley races for the. Since then, I've been working on Ballydrawn Horse, which is my flat site, but I'm now fully in the national hunt mode. NTF, which is my main website, my main service. I'm just building him back up for the jump season. I've actually spent a lot of the summer, despite it being flat oriented, obviously, I've spent a lot of the summer still with my head in the national hunt game. I've been an hour upon hour creating a trend horses guide, which is going to be part of the service, which we'll get onto later. But yeah, it's October now, so it's full steam ahead to jumps, which is I love. That's what I live for. That's what we're here for.
So even though you've been doing your badly drawn horse, and there's been all this great flat action all summer, you've still been sticking your head in the national hunt form book, and very much looking forward to this time of year.
Yeah. I've been doing the flat. It's been taking up a lot of my time, but any spare time I've had has been for the jump, as much to the despair of my ever suffering wife, Mrs. NTF.
Good old Mrs. NTF.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about NTF then. NTF stands for Narrowing the Field, and it initially started out as a book, which is on my bookshelf up there somewhere, behind the iron probably. And since then it's gone online. And how many years have you been doing Narrowing the Field online now?
7 years. This will be the 8th year. So I've been doing 7 years. Yeah, I know. I literally no idea where those 7 years have gone. But
you get less for serial offences, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
7 years of NTF, and as I say, how I've managed to roll in the 8th year, don't know. No idea what's happened the past 7 years. You just keep on getting stuck in the national hunt, and the years seem to fly past.
Yeah, and I mean, I think one of the things about that is that the fact that NTF's been going for so long is a testament to its effectiveness and the value that your subscribers place in it. We're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. NTF has evolved a bit over the years, I think. So can you, for those who might not be familiar with it, can you outline how it started from that book, let's say, and where it is now in terms of a product, in terms of a thing that people can use during the jump season?
Yeah, so you're right. It started with the book. And the book only looked at the dosage side of things. Dosage is, without getting too complicated, a pedigree analysis tool. I've written this down, obviously. It's the best way to describe it. Pedigree analysis tool that is still, it's still pretty much ignored in this country. Basically, is looking at the pedigree side of a horse, and it tells you the likely speed or stamina capabilities of any horse.
Okay. It basically does that by scoring a horse's last, I think it's 5 generations of lineage. So it's sire, it's dad, it's granddad, it's great granddad, and so on. and awarding points for various characteristics, which include stamina and class and brilliance. I think is another one. You'd know this better than me, but anyway,
Yeah.
I think the key one that you look at is stamina. Is that right?
Yeah, that works. Obviously, it works better over the jumps. There is no. It's stronger the further up the distance ladder you go. It's a bit. It probably is a bit less. It's more variable. Sorry, at the sort of 2 mile distances. But as soon as you start reaching 2 mile 4, and especially 3 mile and stuff like the King George Gold Cup, the national races such as that, that's where I find it really comes in its own. Gold Cup especially is incredibly strong for dosage.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. It kind of makes sense as well that the further you go distance wise, obviously the more stamina comes into play, and a horse that can look to have robust form credentials, which may be stepping up in trip, dosage can indicate that there might be a big red flag there, where the form book suggests it's got every chance.
Yeah, that'd be right. That'd be spot on that. Yep.
So when you started out, you very much majored on the dosage side of things, but at some point between then and now, you've built out the provision, and it's a more comprehensive consideration now, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. The dosage still a major consideration, but very early on when I moved online, I took on my other, which was I used myself for my own personal betting, and I blended that into to form the service. So as I said, dosage is still a major part of it, but it's the original book looked at about 140 plus major national hunt races. I still look at roughly that number, probably slightly more now, using dosage and also using the race trends.
Yeah,
which is that's just a sort of blend the two of them together to create a short list. So race trends, I think most people will be familiar with, especially in followers of yourself. I think we both quite use race trends. Maybe me more than you, I think. But
yeah, these days, I mean, since geegeez Gold has come along, I've kind of I've moved personally in that direction. But certainly for the big races, I'm still all over the trends. I'm probably quite selective in the ones that I personally use, but I as you've said already, in these big races it does take a certain type to get the job done typically, and I think prudent use of recent history can be really helpful in that regard. So although in my day-to-day punting, I'd probably be more form book based. I guess you would as well. For those big races, I definitely have one eye on the trends for sure.
Yeah, for your day-to-day run-of-the-mill races, it doesn't work. I think there's other things at play, but for the big races where trainers have been targeting a horse for months, weeks, months, years, possibly, it's the race trends I find are really strong, and they continue to be year after year. And I weigh heavily on the race trends and the dosage trends to create my short list. So, and as I have been for 8 years now. I was longer in my own personal betting, but in the NTF capacity, it's been the mainstay of the service.
Yeah. Putting you on the spot a little bit, maybe, but can you nominate a race that is particularly strong from a trends and dosage perspective?
Nominate a race.
Yeah.
Again, you're looking at Gold Cup. Well, out with that, because I already mentioned that. Probably there's a few handicaps, and I think the Betfair hurdle at Newbury it's often been a strong one for me on the service. It often highlights quite a few big price winners as well. It was Agropart won Lizzie Kelly last year. Yeah, I would say that's Betfair hurdles. It seems getting stronger actually. It's really developed into a really strong race on the trends and dosage front.
Right. Okay.
It's great. There's a few. The handicaps I find on the trends front can be really strong. you probably have slightly more to work with there, I guess, with weight limits, ratings, such like.
Yeah, tend to be bigger fields as well, I suppose. I
Yeah,
mean, with the Betfair Hurdle, that's February time, isn't it, in Newbury, and the Gold Cup's
it is.
obviously March. Um, which reminds us that the National Hunt season is here to stay. Here we are having a chat in early October, and we're talking about races being run in February and middle March, which is what
Yeah.
5 months away. We've got plenty of excitement and joy to come from the jumpers between now and then. When does NTF start and end? And you mentioned 140 races there. How many are on the roster these days?
It's quite fluid. I don't have an exact figure. It's above 140. There is at the minute in the members area there is the race schedule. Most races on that schedule will be covered, but obviously you can come down to a race and there's only going to be 4 runners. One's ahead, yours on shot. I'm not going to be covering it, but I also have a sort of subsection of races that I've kind of looking at behind the scenes that I kind of brought a few of them in last year. I brought in the races, the Cheltenham October meeting, the 3-mile race. It was won by mine last year. That was the first time it was on the service last year, and I also had the Doncaster, the Grimthorpe Chase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that came in last year. So I've got a few races that come in that have been sort of on the sidelines. I've been waiting for them just to have enough renewals to be strong enough to be covered. And there's quite a few of them. I'm drip feeding them in.
Okay, so it's kind of it's a, I wouldn't say it's a movable feast, but it's there's a core and a periphery, and you're taking a pragmatic approach to it in terms of if it's a short field and a logical odds-on favourite. There's little point spending hours doing the homework, because the balance of probabilities is that the jolly's going to win.
Yeah, indeed.
And who wants to be backing a Nicky Henderson 1-4 shot in a 3-runner heavy ground grade 2?
Exactly. Yeah.
Again, I mean, there's a stronger argument for those races to be erased from the calendar, or certainly reviewed. But that's a discussion for other people on another day.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, as you say, there are kind of high class handicaps or competitive handicaps which you're introducing over time, and I think most people who want to have a bet on a Saturday or at one of the big meetings, and it's a point worth making, is that NTF very much focuses on the big meetings and the big races, where people mainly, certainly more casual punters, but I guess a lot of pros as well, mainly focus their betting. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely concentrated around the weekend. Really. There is some midweek ones. Also, you have like the Holland Gold Cup that's on a Tuesday. So you have the odd race here and there that is covered midweek, but I would say about 90% of them are 95% are the major weekend races, with the odd midweek race thrown in.
Yeah, or the major festivals, of course.
Well, I know Cheltenham's not a weekend festival, but I would include that. It's the major festivals are all included. Sort of thing. So yeah.
Sure. Very good. Let's talk about what comprises NTF. I mean, we've talked in kind of broad terms about how you go about. We talked about the races and how you go about them in terms of dosage and trends. But if somebody was to join the NTF service, can you describe their user experience?
User experience.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's not. I always like to say I'm not a standard tipping service. I'm not. You don't log in, say, and I don't just say these are the 2 I've selected. Back them. Bye bye. Come back next week for the same. I produce a full in-depth race guide for all the big every big race I cover, and that breaks the race down into the race trends, dosage trends. There's pace as well. A pace analysis page tells you how I think the race can be run, and who I also think is going to win the race. Then I'll have the short list, which is the dosage and the trains, and then I will make my own selection from which I'll set up so that if you don't want to follow my selections, that's perfect. If I know what of my members take the guide, look at how I've broken down the race, and then come to their own conclusions from that. If that matches my selection, great. If not, equally great, because the guides they're intentionally set up so that it isn't just log in, get tip, see you later, come back now.
And from a personal perspective, I think that's a much better way of presenting the information. Now, there'll be lots of people who they just want to follow your suggestion.
Yeah,
they either haven't got the time or the inclination to engage with the data at a deeper level, which is obviously absolutely fine. But for those who want somebody else to do the mining, the deep digging, but they want to use that information to come to their own solution, then you've got them covered.
Yeah, as I say, there is quite a lot on my service who it's a busy world we live in. So some of them do come in, give the guy a cursory look, and think elections this week, and that's fine. Then next week you might think, the kids are away with the wife, I've got time, I'll sit down, I'll read the guide, and I'll get properly stuck in. It's as I say, it's free to use whatever suits the individual punter.
Yeah, and that's that's kind of real life, isn't it? It's we haven't all got a fixed 3-hour slot every Saturday to go through the race card. Sometimes we've got to go to football with the lad, or ballet with the daughter, or shopping with the wife, or whatever it is. It doesn't really matter. We've got to do things in a way that works for us, and you've got to the way you present the information with kind of the shortcut, here's the answer that I've arrived at, but also here's all the working out. If you've got time, go and have a play with that. That's kind of how I personally would present a service as well. I think it appeals to everyone, and the same person might engage with it in a different way on a different day. So that's very cool. One other thing that you touched on there, you've started to include pace projections in your race previews now.
They've always been there, Matt.
Okay, I missed that.
No, I've always had them there. It's the way the race is run, can affect a race so many ways. It can identify a sole front runner who's going to have an uncontested lead. It can identify a few front runners, so it's going to suit the hold-up horses. But then I also look at how previous renewals of the race had been won from what position. So for whatever reason, which we could discuss for hours and hours, some races are not won by front runners. Some races are won by hold-up horses the majority of the time, and my pace maps indicate of a race have come from. That's probably, it's mainly down, I imagine, to the track layout. Certain tracks suit certain types of horses, and certain distances at certain tracks suit certain types of horses, and that's sort of highlighted in a small scale for each individual race.
Sure. And I think that's absolutely, my own more generalist review of pace, and by pace I think we normally mean run style. Shows the same kind of things. We on geegeez, as we've got some kind of historical analyses of which run styles are suited by which course and distance combinations. That information is available in other places as well, of course, though not very many. And I think it's very insightful. Another thing, particularly with those big field handicaps, is that although the Betfair hurdle might be an exception, typically they'd be run at a and they place an emphasis on certainly tactical speed, but more than that, an ability to see out the trip, as evidenced by the dosage, and to be in the right place at the right time based on what the course and distance combination is. Although we're dealing in generalizations, there are quite a few elements that come into play there, and most of those can be, to some degree at least, preempted.
Yeah, no, it's the pace and maps. They help me form a picture of the race, like the dosage do, like the trends do, and it helps subscribers. It just helps you form a picture of the race, which I think is important. You need to have in your head how it's going to be run. And I'd say you can, nowadays with the information available, you can almost, it's not second guessing, but you can get a good picture pre-race of how the race is likely to be run. And I think that's important information to have. It's as you say, it's not, the information is available, but it's not maybe.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, it's available on Proform. It's available on geegeez. There are a few bits and pieces maybe on the At the Races cards these days, but I wouldn't personally trust that necessarily. But yeah, I mean, the main outlets don't really factor this in to their public provision.
No.
So it's great that you're helping them there. I mean, like you, I'm a massive fan of. I wouldn't have a bet anywhere on any day without checking the pace shape in the race.
Definitely, yeah.
I think it's crazy to do that.
Yeah,
and it for me it beggars belief that in this country it's not even a consideration for most people to have a bet, and for those that do, it's probably somewhere down the pecking order. That's absolutely crazy to me, and I'm sure it will change as the information becomes more readily available. But for now, it provides a real opportunity to those people who are kind of early adopters in the UK. I mean, in global terms, everybody around the world bets with pace information to hand, except in the UK and Ireland. And on that basis alone, it has to change, because clearly it's such a fundamental premise of a bet, not just in a big race, but anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's very cool that that's a factor in NTF. Aside from the race guides, I mean, I say aside from, that's obviously a huge bundle of information drip fed over the course of 6 months. When does it start and end?
It starts middle of October, and it finishes at the Swinton Hurdle at Haydock, which is middle of May or start of May, it'll be, I think, which technically into the next season. But Swinton Hurdle is a great race. I love it. I think
it's a great trench race, isn't it?
Big field, yeah, great trench race. It works for everything I like. You can get a good pace mark, get a good dosage, good trends, and I just can't not have it in the service.
Fair enough. It's a good way to end as well. I think always leave them wanting more.
I don't think it gets enough coverage. I think it's a great race. Yeah, it's a shame it kind of crosses over into the flat season a little bit, but no, I love it. So the service runs mid-October to mid-May, or whenever the Swinton Hurdle is.
So that's actually 7 months. It's actually more than half a year.
Yeah.
Gosh. Okay. Do you, within the NTF provision, do you have anything as well as the race guides?
Yeah, there's quite a few things. Every Monday I have weekend notes, which is I in-depthly look back at the Friday, Saturday, Sunday racing that just passed, pick out all the important factors. I look at the performance of horses. I kind of pinpoint where I think they might be worth following in the future, why they ran well that weekend, why they didn't run well that weekend. I look at young horses who I think can make into future chasers, hurdlers. Anything that catches my eye will be covered in weekend notes. It runs to pages every Monday, more maybe. Just whenever I've stopped speaking.
Sure. Sorry. I think the video might have broken up a little bit then. It runs to how many pages?
10 plus. As I said, whenever my brain stops spewing out information, and obviously I look at trends and stats. It's not just my thoughts. I back out with hard facts where I can.
Sure. So that amounts to quite a chunky old dossier over the course of the season.
It does, yeah, it does. It's I don't know how many Mondays it is.
A book, dare one say it.
Yeah, to be honest, I've probably written more in those weekend notes than I did in my book. To be fair, it does. It covers a lot. It's grown in the past 3 or 4 years, and I know a lot of my members love it. They take the notes and they rip into themselves, and they take information out of it and go off on their own and use that for their own betting through the weeks ahead. Without any input from me, once I've given them the notes, or we'll discuss it in the members area, sort of thing. So yeah, weekend notes they're a big
part
from weekend notes.
Sorry, you touched on the members area there.
Yeah.
The implication being that there's some kind of chat room or forum or some means of people to talk to each other. Is that right, or have I misinferred that?
Every post has a comment section, and members they're always leaving comments. I always reply to comments, and that leads down various various roads. But yeah, I always make sure the comment section is always active. Every post, people hopefully are commenting. We're discussing that racing, the racing that just passed, stuff that may happen in the future, or whatever I've mentioned in the blog post. It's open to whatever people want to talk about. So that's just an important part. I mean, a lot of my members have been on 5, 6, 7 years. They're all coming back, and we know each other quite well, and obviously we welcome new people as well. And we just talk about. I'll talk about that sort of thing. It's obviously it'll be tied into whatever post. But yeah, I freely encourage people to comment. I'm always open to. Yeah, I'm always open to suggestions, comments. Some people stuff they may want to see in the service, stuff that they've noticed on the racetrack, whatever, anything
and that's good, because you're not the only set of eyes watching the weekend racing or the racing in the week for that matter. So it's great that you've got a kind of a community feel where other people are chipping in, and actually within the weekly post it kind of gives it a nice kind of chronology to it, where so the comments will the comments on a given post will apply to racing in the previous week, and then the next post applies to the next week, and so on through the season, which is quite a clean way of doing it.
Yeah, no, it's worked well. It's always, I say, it wasn't always on the service, but it's kind of been built the last 3 or 4 years, and
great. So we've got 100 and 100 and something, 140 odd race guides, which cover dosage, trends, pace, and an idea of who the winner might be. We've got weekly eye catchers, your views on the weekend's racing, which run to quite a substantial number of pages over the course of over the course of a weekend, let alone a year.
I couldn't put
a members area. Sorry, say again.
I couldn't put a number on weekend notes.
It's fine.
Just whenever it stops.
A members area, which is where the content is is presented, but where a dialogue is encouraged. So it's not just you offering your thoughts. You're encouraging people to come back with their own and to have a conversation as well, which is we all love racing. We want to talk about racing, so it's great that there's an opportunity to do that. Is there anything else as well as that, or is that all of it?
Oh no, there's not finished yet, Matt. There's something new for the season, which is a kind of a developed over the past couple of years as well, and it's kind of came from the weekend notes. It's trend horses, which it's not a new concept, but I kind of like to think maybe it's kind of done in my own way. and that's looking for sort of patterns and profiles, within the horse's form. I've had bits and bobs of it in the service over the past couple of years, and members are really taken to it. And as I mentioned, I have been this summer in my spare time. I've been creating a dossier on. Out of all my weekend notes from the past couple of seasons, I've created. I've profiled over 100 national hunt horses, and I've pinpointed their exact conditions where they excel at, and where I expect us to be able to make profit from them this season.
Wow. So that's very cool. I mean, again, it's something that within geegeez, the instant expert is on any given day will highlight horses, in the not humdrum, but in the everyday racing that that kind of fit those profile stereotypes. But a number of years back, in fact, probably the first year you did NTF, I worked with a chap called David Peat on a flat product called Flat Racing Profiles, and it was exactly this, and it did really well. And it's a great concept for, probably more so for the national hunt, because the horses run for more years, and therefore they have more time to establish their preferences. I think individual horse profiling is an underrated area of the game. It's not easy to do. It takes time, doesn't it? And maybe that's why it's it's not as popular as things that can perhaps be put together more quickly. But that's brilliant that you've got 100 or so of those in there. And I personally will look forward to benefiting from your hard work on that.
That's the choice. I enjoy doing it. I've done it again. It's something I've done on my personal betting for many years. But I just wanted a definitive guide. Maybe not the right word, but I wanted. It was all there in the weekend notes. I wanted to just pull it together and make it a sort of easy to read PDF guide for members. But again, it's not like I'm just saying, here's a PDF, take it, do what you want. You can do that. But if one of the runners on the guide runs, and I think it's got conditions to suit, I will highlight it in a blog post in the members area. And then also members can agree, disagree, do what they will with it. But I will be tracking those horses, and I will be highlighting to members when I think they're worth putting the money down on them.
Sure. Great. So, there's a lot in here, isn't there? I'm almost scared to ask if that's all of it, because I think you're probably going to tell me there's something more.
Yeah, there's more. Yeah, a little bit more. Then again, some of it is redeveloping over the seasons. And that's a little bit on the free blog. It's mini angles, which looking at it's used for the festivals or maybe 2-day meetings, but certainly Cheltenham, Aintree, Punchestown, those sort of meetings, I'll be utilising mini angles, whereas it'll be a set of 2 or 3 angles I've sourced for myself that have been profitable at previous festivals, highlighting. It would mainly be trainer mini angles rather than anything else. Although I do have a couple of other little angles. Followers may be aware of my German bred hard work at Cheltenham, which always causes a bit of a conversation, shall we say.
Something that people might not know about German horses, and I think this is a factor in the whole German bred thing, is that in order to be a stallion in Germany, you have to have a very, very correct conformation. You can't just be a horse that won a Group 1 race in Germany to become a stallion in Germany. You have to pass very strict criteria on the correctness of your conformation. So you wouldn't be having a wind problem. You wouldn't have lameness issues when you're a racehorse. So the likes of Manjuro and Scirocco and Monsun and Malinas, who I think is a really, really interesting stallion in national hunt space. these German stallions, they're I hesitate to. I mean, there are all sorts of implications of suggesting that they're a super race.
Yeah.
But they're the German breeders don't tolerate, and they don't gloss over the kind of issues that a lot of racehorses that become stallions in Britain and Ireland do. They're maybe they're less commercially smart. Maybe they just care about the longevity of the breed. That's by the by. In punting terms, I think as horses become increasingly fragile for lots of reasons that we won't go into now, we can put more stock into German stock. So yeah, I that's a very, very verbose way of saying I'm on the same page as you in terms of German stallions generally, but I think increasing. I mean, apart from anything else, their big flat races are all over middle distances, right? Yeah. So they lend themselves to be national hunt stallions. There's a lot of logic and sense behind what you're saying about German hurdlers at the festival and otherwise. And I can tell you that Medinas was a Malinas progeny that won over hurdles at the festival, Alan King. I know all this because we've got a yearling by Malinas.
Yeah.
So that's kind of.
I think the German bred angle throws out fascinating angles, in my opinion. A lot of people don't care about it. A lot of people in the media scoff at it, but fine by me because it makes profit or it gives me strong stats that I can avoid. And so I'd say a lot of the mini angles are trainer based, but there are a couple of other ones I'll slide in there as well. So the mini angles were kind of developed past couple of years. Last year I really pushed it at the end of the season, and it landed some really chunky bets at the Punchestown Festival at the end of the season. And I think members gave me no option but to have to include them this year on a more regular basis, which is fine by me because I think I was probably planning that anyway. But yeah, they really came together at Punchestown last year, and the mini angles will be utilised at various points, when suitable at the sort of bigger festivals or bigger 2-day meetings. So that's another sort of string to the NTF bow. And there's one more thing. Oh yeah, anti-post analysis.
The old anti-posters.
Yeah, I'm not a huge anti-post punter whatsoever, and it's maybe anti-post analysis isn't the right description, but I will look at how the sort of Cheltenham races are shaping up and maybe the national shaping up just from that season and who the likely contenders are. And I won't necessarily be highlighting somebody I think is worthy of a bet, but I know if quite a few members will look at it and make a bet based on what I've uncovered. So we'll look at who will be ticking the trend boxes and who obviously has the dosage credentials, because we could, by December time, the Gold Cup picture will be a bit clearer, and I'll be able to tell you who has correct dosage credentials and who doesn't, which for the past X amount of years, many years, the dosage stats have been bang on for the Gold Cup. And we can almost rule certain horses out very early on. Yeah. I thought not one just to blanket rule them out, but
I'm a little bit disappointed, to be honest. We did so well. I don't know how long we've been blethering on for, but we've managed not to talk really about the festival at all. And it seems that in every other national hunt conversation that happens, if you're not talking about the festival, you're missing a trick. And I like the way you're almost apologetic about. You're not apologetic, but your primary focus is not anti-post. Looking towards the festival, but you recognise that there's value in having some opinions on that, certainly as the season matures. But I think personally, the beauty of, or one of the beauties of NTF is that it is, its focus is week to week. It's not you're not wishing your life away to March next year. You're looking forward to that, but there's every week there's some good stuff between now and then, and we should it's got to a point almost now where we're forgetting to celebrate and to engage with that, and that's a real tragedy for the national hunt game, I think, because it does need to live and breathe for those 5 months between now and March, in order to make March the spectacle that it is.
Definitely, yeah. The festival's great, don't get me wrong, but there's so much for us between now in the festival. The Hennessy, amazing meeting. I love the Hennessy. The King George meeting, the Welsh National. I don't want to take your pick. The Tingle Creek. I mean, there's so many great meetings before Cheltenham that Cheltenham can hold fire for a minute.
Yeah. I here, as they would say. Absolutely right. So, right, crikey, there's a lot there. The guides, which are awesome. Eye catchers. Members area, to and fro, trends, horses, mini angles, some anti-post thoughts as well. Have you got? Is there any way that people can get a feel for how this stuff actually looks in the flesh before considering whether they're going to be a member of NTF this season?
Yeah. The many ways you can do it. I mean, the sign-up pages have examples from last year of the race guides and of the weekend notes. Recently, as last month, I covered the Kerry National on the free blog in the same manner we cover all the other races. So you can just nibble on the free blog and look back to September, and the Kerry National analysis will be there. That'll give you a great feel. Thankfully, that I landed the 1-2 that day from the analysis. So it's a very good example of how it works.
Tip of the hat.
Yeah, to be honest, the Kerry National have pain for me for years. I've had many place firsts, so this year finally get the winner was great. I mean, it's always done well in the Kerry National, but did me. I placed in it about 5 years in a row.
I think there were a few nationals that were Kerry nationals last year, weren't there? Kerry Lee did rather well.
Yeah, she did do rather well. Yeah, she's taken
she's chip off the block,
foundation. Yeah. Where was it? So yeah, also you can sign up to there's the free list, which there are some free guides on there, which are good examples. Again, you'll get some previous race guide examples there, but you also get I've got my alternative 20 to follow list that goes out to free members, which looks at 20 horses to follow that are not Mullins, not Nichols, not Henderson, not King, not Hobbs, not the main, not the top of the tree. I've kind of gone down a couple of levels and looked at the ones horses people are not too familiar with. So
brilliant. Let me put you on the spot again. Then, can you do you want to give us one of your 20?
Yeah, I can give you one. Let me think. I will. Yeah, I'll go Cloudy Dream from Malcolm Jefferson.
Sorry, what's he called?
Cloudy Dream. He runs second in the Scottish Champion Hurdle last year.
Okay, Crazy Dream.
No, Cloudy Dream.
Cloudy Dream. Cloudy Dream.
As by the sire Cloudings.
It's your thick northern Scottish accent caught me out there.
Yeah, I know it does get in the way sometimes. Yeah, Cloudy Dream. He's on my 20 to follow list, and for me, it's always been about chasing with him. So last year that he was a season over hurdles, novice hurdler, and then they stepped him up for the Scottish Champion Hurdle, and I thought it was a remarkable performance. I think he jumped the last flight in about 9th, and then he absolutely flew home and came second. It was behind the Dan Skelton horse, whose name escapes me, but the Skelton horse that had been laid out for that race. But yeah, Cloudy Dream flew home.
So he'll be going novice chasing this year, will he?
He's going chasing. I've actually spoken to Ruth Jefferson, who is assistant to Malcolm Jefferson. She's Malcolm's daughter. She told me no firm plans for him, but he could run in another hurdle race and then he goes chasing. So he is definitely going chasing this year.
Okay. He should pick up a few. I mean, might not be much of a price in the early part of the season, but
no.
I guess always in the back of my mind with a very sharp operator like Malcolm Jefferson is that he might have that novices handicap chase at the festival in his mind.
Possibly, yeah.
So I'd probably I'd want to look at the market first time up, I think, over fences.
Jefferson's done the usual. I think he's given him a sort of quiet bumper, quiet hurdles campaign, let him mature, and he looks like a chaser. He's by Cloudings. He's owned by Trevor Hemmings. Trevor Hemmings Silks. Chasing was always going to be his game. They've not overfaced him. I think he could be a stable star for him. I think he could be first in the Jefferson Yard. Potentially. Right. Hopefully.
Very interesting. Well, I hope you're right, and certainly made a note of Cloudy Dream, and I'm sure plenty of others have too. We should cut to the meat of it.
Mm-hmm.
You, as we've touched on throughout, you've got a product coming available in the next few days called Narrowing the Field, and it's a comprehensive service with the race guides, the eye catchers, the members area, the trends horses, the mini angles, and the anti-post analysis. A lot to keep people engaged for the next 7 months or so. What's it going to cost them, and how can they get involved?
Right, it will be $157 for a season ticket. So that you sign up, and that's the only pay we need to make. That's you for 7 months of the season. I'm hoping you will have put a little button below this video somewhere. I'll leave it up to you.
I will definitely do that. Yep.
That'll take you to the sign up page, and as I said, before you sign up, have a look at the full page, because there is guides there that will show you exactly what I do, how I do it, and that'll give you a great indicator of it. So it's 157 full season. I only really take people on at the start of the season because I just like to concentrate on the racing after that. I'm not a huge fan of the admin side of things, but yeah. So by the end of October, I'll close the doors, and then it'll be full steam ahead, just racing, concentrating on the racing side of things.
Yeah, great. Okay, so just to recap, then it's 157 for 7 months access for all of that stuff. I won't mention all the things in there again. That's just over £20 a month, which is very reasonable. The window to get involved is a relatively small one, because you do close, and I know it's not just. Excuse me. That's unfortunate. I should have put that on silent. Yeah, ever the pro. The last few years you've done the same, and while some people might kind of say they're shutting down, and they actually don't shut down, when you say it's available for a short period of time, that's what you mean. That's people can rely on that. So basically, if you do want this, then now's the time to think about it. If you're not sure, because 157 up front might seem quite a chunky investment, then definitely have a look at the free stuff, the kind of example downloads, and I'll link. There should be a link below this video by the time you are watching it to get those as well. So I think that's about the size of it. I'm really looking forward to I love this time of year in racing. It's my favourite time of the year, really, because fantastic end of season meetings over on the flat at Ascot, at Longchamp or Chantilly this year, and my favourite, which is the Breeders' Cup. I think everybody knows that. And then kind of as the Breeders' Cup's finishing, the next weekend is the Paddy Power Open meeting. We've already had the Cheltenham October meeting, and we've had the Chepstow Kickstarter meeting as well, and then it's all systems jump from there. It's a fantastic time of year, autumn, for racing fans, and I think this Narrowing the Field product will really add depth to your engagement with the winter game, as much as your profitability. And as regular geegeez readers will know, we obviously bet to win, but we bet to enjoy it as well, and to have fun, and to kind of engage more deeply with the sport we love, and the NTF provision certainly will support that. So thank you very much for your time today, Ben. I wish you all the best with NTF this season, and I'm looking forward to seeing Cloudy Dream win an as yet undetermined race at the festival.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, mate. Good to chat, and I'll speak to you soon.
Cool, mate. Thanks. See you soon.
Bye for now.
Cheers. Bye.